1 week from tonight, the state of Texas plans to execute Wayne Buntion for the 1990 murder of Houston police officer James Irby.
And our Grace White spoke to Irby's family about their decades-long wait for justice. And Grace, you also talked to Buntion on death row.
For the first time, we heard remorse from Wayne Buntion. It's a case that's dragged on for more than 3 decades, and the family of Officer James Irby telling us this is a chapter they are ready to close.
Such Jim's obituary.
It's been a long road to justice.
Yeah, I was so angry for so long.
A road that was never supposed to take 30 years.
He was my hero.
On June 27, 1990, HPD Officer James Irby, husband and father of 2, was shot and killed during a traffic stop.
Nobody wanted me to see him, but it wasn't really going to be real unless I did. And
3 decades later, Mara Irby got the phone call her husband's killer, Wayne Buntion, finally had an execution date.
we really were caught off guard by the decision to execute Buntion. After nearly 32 years, we just figured he was just going to die of old age.
Buntion is the oldest offender on Texas death row at 78 years old, and he agreed to an interview.
Every day for the last 32 years, I have regretted what happened.
What happened on that day was never in question. Buntion admits he shot and killed Officer Irby and then went on a shooting spree before eventually being arrested.
Why did you shoot Officer Irby?
Why? Because he was fixing to kill me. When I pulled my gun, it was in self-defense.
Buntion is a career criminal. He was on parole at the time for sexual assault of a child. After the murder, Officer Irby's widow, a young mother at the time, became an advocate for reform.
And stood over my husband's lifeless body and shot him twice more in the back.
Even getting Oprah's attention.
Don't you think we need to relook at the system and stop kidding ourselves?
He was sentenced to death in 1991, but an appeals court granted Buntion a new punishment phase of the trial in 2012, putting the family through it all over again.
It was almost like it happened to me for the first time because I was so young when he died.
For a second time, a jury sentenced Buntion to death, but it would be another decade before he got an execution date.
When the jury returned another death sentence, were you relieved?
I was. We were quite relieved and, again, saddened. It's still a conflict, as I said. I don't know if I can actually watch him executed.
It's not about revenge. It's not about anything like that. It's just finally being able to move on from this thing that has affected my whole life and, you know, most of my mother's and my brother's.
If you could say something to Officer Irby's wife and children, what would you say to them?
I wish like hell it never had happened. Miss Irby sitting right there, I tell her the same thing. I'm sorry it happened. My heart aches every day for her and her kids.
That's amazing, because he's never shown any kind of remorse for any of us. That's the first apology that I've heard that he's made.
Attorneys for Buntion have filed a number of appeals attempting to stop the execution, but right now it is still scheduled to move forward, and the Irby family told us they are ready for this all to be over so Jim can rest in peace.
That is a long time coming. I also know you will cover the execution next week in Huntsville.
We'll be there. We'll be covering it.
All right. Thank you, Grace.